purpose of this video is to give you some hints on the imaginary numbers learning activity. So first we're going to go over the written material up here at the top. It begins by giving us some facts about real numbers. Any real number is either positive, negative, or zero. One of those three things has to be true. And any positive number squared is positive, any negative number squared is positive, and 0 squared is 0. So when you square a real number, you get either something positive or 0. Since the square root of -1 squared would be -1, we know that the square root of -1 is not a real number. However, it is useful to be able to work with the square roots of negative numbers. There are many applications of square roots of negative numbers. So, even though it's not a real number, we can define I to be equal to the square root of -1, and we create the set of imaginary numbers. Remember, this is our set builder notation. This means that what's in our set is here, b times I, where b is a real number. So we've taken all the real numbers, multiplied them by I, and that gives us the set of imaginary numbers. And we can use this I with the double bar to represent the set of imaginary numbers. I is called the imaginary unit, and you might see other books or possibly websites use an I without a dot or a J instead of a regular I. For the purposes of the rest of this handout, I've used the I without a dot because we're working with a lot of exponents and it can get pretty crowded up there. So leaving the dot off can make it clearer what your intention is. So now let's come down here to these tables. On this part, we're asked to complete the tables. We have I to a bunch of different exponents, 3 tables worth. So my first row in this table is I to the 0. I to the anything to the 0, any number at all to the 0 is 1. So I to the 0 is also 1. I to the 1, well, any number to the 1 is itself. So I to the 1 is just I. I squared, well, if we look back to the top of the handout, of the worksheet rather, it's like the square root of -1 squared is -1. So that's what I squared is, -1. Now, I cubed. I cubed is I squared times I. Well, anything cubed is that thing squared times another thing. So I already know what I squared is. That was -1. Then I multiply by another I. So -1 times I, well, that's just -I. And then I to the 4th. I look back at my previous row. I cubed was -I, and then I can multiply by another I to get I to the 4th. -I times I. Well, that's -I squared. And I'm out of room in my table, but I squared is -1. So this is the negative of -1, which is just +1. So I to the 4th is +1. Then I to the 5th, I can refer to the previous line. It was 1. I need to multiply by I. And 1 times I is I. So using this technique, I want you to complete this table. Really, even though it's broken up into 3 parts, it really is just one table. Then look for patterns and use the pattern that you notice to figure out the ones at the bottom. This is intended to be just a hint, not to get you all the way there. If you have some problems with these, I'd like you to work on them for a while first, but you can refer to the second video with the slideshow presentation, and that may give you some additional information on these questions in number 2. But you do need to look for the pattern first. All right, that's it for this hint.